Delegate, there was a lot of flare-up with the transportation bills going on between the House and the Senate. Maybe you can kind of tell us a little bit about the dynamics that was going on behind there and maybe how things are looking right now.
Well, right now it comes down to something I think pretty simple. I believe, and many in the House share this belief, that transportation is a core government priority. I think there's no way to do that. There's no way around that. Transportation is a core government responsibility. Unfortunately, others, mostly in the Senate, disagree. They believe transportation is a sub-government priority that should be relegated behind other government priorities. And we have the general fund. The general fund is used to fund core government priorities. We also have a transportation trust fund, but as we know, that's been raided time after time for other purposes. And we have a lot of transportation-related revenues that don't go to the transportation trust fund. When you get your auto insurance, for example, that auto insurance includes a tax. You don't see it, but it's built into your premium. And that auto insurance premium tax is transportation-related, but that money goes into the general fund. And so many of us believe that it's the people's money. It's their money. It's not our money. And the people in my district and in many other places around Virginia are demanding that we use their money, prioritize it for transportation. And so when we've gone through the last couple budget cycles, increasing education, environment, public safety budgets by huge numbers, by 20% plus a year, it's time that we give transportation its turn, particularly when we're running surplus after surplus year after year. We're not talking about taking money away from other programs. Other programs are funded, and this year we work on a biennial budget. You might have heard last year all the talk about government possibly shutting down because we didn't have a budget.
Right.
Well, we didn't. That was a possibility then, but right now we have that 2-year budget. That budget extends through the end of this fiscal year. If we do nothing this session with the budget, we'll still have government open and providing services, and everything will be getting the increases that they got as part of the budget enacted last year. But still, on top of that, we have $1 billion on the table, more that we're going to spend this year. And I think that $1 billion should go to transportation. Several of others of us agree, but as we start to compromise, that number dwindles down to perhaps half of the surplus. But the Senate, however, the majority of the Senate has determined that they don't want any of it going to transportation. And that's where the debate really comes down to with the transportation issue that we're debating now at the end of session, is should we take this money that we have already on the table, already there, available to spend, should we also take some of the existing transportation-related revenues that aren't being used for transportation and dedicate those to transportation, and use all those things for transportation, or should we raise taxes, even though we have a surplus? Should we raise taxes to pay for transportation? My view is, why in the world do we need to raise taxes when we have all of this surplus money? Why do we need to ask you and the other citizens of Virginia to pay more when we're not doing well with what we already have? I had a daughter 4.5 months ago.
Congratulations.
Thank you. And I know that when I give, my daughter's old enough and I give her allowance, that if she doesn't do with what she's supposed to do with that allowance, I'm not going to turn around and give her more. I'm going to make her learn to do well with what she's already got. And then if she can prove that she's done well with that, then maybe there's an opportunity to give you some more later. But we haven't proven that we do well with what we've got. And so we need to prove to the taxpayers of Virginia that we're going to prioritize their money on their priorities. And then, if there's still a need for more money, then we can have that discussion.
All right. Looking at your crystal ball, what do you see happening this session with transportation?
I have no idea. It's really going to come down to what happens in the Senate. The House leadership and the Senate leadership have worked together to compromise on a transportation bill. It's not my favorite bill, but it is a compromise, right. And the House successfully passed it. The Senate has passed another version of it. But what's going to end up happening is that the conferees that were appointed, to negotiate the differences between the two chambers, that group of conferees is most likely going to agree on a bill much like what the House passed. And then at that point, the Senate's going to have a decision. They had this decision once already, but they had the opportunity to amend. And so they actually, on the same bill, they had two different versions that they could choose from. So if they decided not to vote for one version, they had the fallback position of voting for the other.
Right.
But this time around, late this week, they will have to make a decision, and they won't have two options. They will just have one option, and they have to vote it up or down. And so it's really going to come down to how much do some of these individuals in the Senate want to improve transportation, or how much do they want to have the political capital in terms of the Democrats being able to come home and blame it all on Republicans and use that against us in the fall. I know that there's been a lot of talk in the news media about that being a possible strategy. But those are the choices. Are we going to do something for the people of Virginia on transportation? Or are we going to have a political issue floating out there?
Right. And it all has to be related somehow to a great rating that we received from Forbes magazine just recently as being the #1 best managed state in the Commonwealth. Yeah,
you know, we do things very well here. We do a lot of things very well in Virginia. It doesn't mean we're perfect. But yes, I guess Forbes magazine looked at all the states around the nation and determined that Virginia does do well at managing government. And I think largely we do manage government very well. We have our problems, like I said, in how we're prioritizing the budget, the appropriations. We need to reform how we do transportation. But other than that, you know, those are the big issues before us. And everything else seems to be doing very, very well.